My name is Silvia Tejedor. I'm a retired technical officer in electronics. I worked for the Department of Defense for 34 years. When I first came to Australia in 1975, I didn't speak any English. I was placed at Form 3 or Year 9 because of my age. At the time, there were a lot of migrants from South America, Chile, Argentina, and Uruguay. So Maribyrnong High School had special English classes for all of us. But I was good at maths, and at the time, the maths classes consisted of five works that you actually would pick up your own work and did it on your own time and at your own pace. I was very good at it, so good that I would always finish before all the other students that spoke English. When I was studying in Form 5 or Year 11, I was doing all science subjects: physics, chemistry, Maths 1, Maths 2, and English. I didn't know what to do as a career. I was thinking of being a civil engineer until I found out that civil engineers build bridges. Anyway, during a short course in physics class, I studied electronics, doing AND gates, OR gates, which I really enjoyed. So I went to a career advisor and found out that I could do an engineering course in electronics. Once I decided what I wanted to do and be a technical officer in electronics, I knew that I wasn't going to get really high marks in Form 6 or Year 12. So I enrolled for the Certificate of Technology at RMIT in 1980. And I was lucky at the time. The students didn't have to pay thousands of dollars to enroll in a tertiary course or pay it later. You just had to pay for your books and your union fees, which wasn't that much. So the first day that I came to a class in 1980, there were 2 female students, including me, and 100 male students. When I went to the class on the second day, there was only 1 female student and 100 male students. I am that kind of person that finishes what I start. So I didn't care that I was the only female student among so many men. Most of them proved to be respectful and helpful. Those that weren't like that with me, they suffer the consequences. I can only tell you my experience and what I did to become a technical officer in electronics. I think the process to achieve this job nowadays is slightly different and also depends whom you end up working for. My schooling in the 80s, I needed to do 2 years of full-time school at RMIT and 2 years of work experience to obtain the Certificate of Technology in Electronics. In the 90s, I chose to continue studying in order to achieve my Associate Diploma of Engineering in Electronics at Western Metropolitan College of TAFE, where a number of subjects were exempt due to my work experience and previous school qualifications. As part of the Certificate of Technology, we had to apply for a traineeship. At the time, there were a lot of government departments that would have hundreds of positions for such students like myself, Telecom, Department of Defense, Ericsson, and many others. One of the conditions to finish this 2-year full-time study at RMIT was that you had to have a job on your last 6 months of these 2 years of full-time study. I applied for all the jobs with the rest of the guys in my class for a year and a half, and I wasn't successful. While all my classmates had jobs, I didn't. I couldn't finish my studies because I had no job, and I thought it was strange that all my classmates had jobs and not me. So when I did the second round of interviews With the Department of Defense, I told the interviewers that despite the fact that I was a woman and a WOG, I am hardworking and focused on my career. And I can't finish the course because I have no job. So just I asked them to give me a chance. Well, they did give me a chance, and I finished the course by 1984. And I continued to work with the Department of Defense for 34 years. I did break a lot of rules of the time to actually allow younger people to take these things or some of the stuff for granted that they have available nowadays, you know. The requirements of a technical officer are like an engineer, but with less time at university and more hands-on. I was involved in a project with an autonomous structural integrity monitoring system, or ASIMS as it was called, which was a data acquisition system. I was required to get familiar with electronics equipment, make cables to connect the data acquisition system to different sensors, collect information from the sensors, interpret and present this information to the customer, whom was interested in monitoring the specimen's structure, example, a piece of or whole aircraft. Other tasks and duties for a technical officer were to design, develop, and maintain electronic equipment to ensure effective and safe use. I was involved in the development of a control system which was engineered to control rigs to simulate real flights on aircraft structures. I was a lab manager, so that I had to make sure that the lab was safe for all its users. I had to write up risk assessments on new equipments and areas where colleagues were setting up their new experiments. I had to purchase equipment, electronic components, and various other items to complete projects. There is still a lot of work to do. Now, there are rules and laws that does not allow employers to discriminate against women. However, the society needs to change their views in such a way that girls aren't afraid to be smart, to be outspoken, or to fight for their rights. But there is still a lot of work to achieve equal levels, considering the world is populated 50% by male and 50% by females. So it should equally be distributing the decision-making, the right to have the same salary as a male colleague doing the same job. I'm in the union with the International Women's Day rally thing, so I'm doing all that as a principal anyway. My biggest personal attribute would have been that I'm stubborn. I maintain focus on my goals. I work hard when I need to. I like to work with others as long as they are not bullies and disrespectful. I was very good at maths. I was always willing to learn something new and ask questions when I want to understand. And I never lose my humor, but I do stand by my rights. It was not my duty or task to organize socializing events, but I did that just the same because it was important to work as a team. A project is much easier to be achieved when you know and respect the people that you're working with. I can't say that I did because, like I said, I wanted to finish what I started. And it was a challenge. I'm not saying that it wasn't, but I wanted to prove a point. Unfortunately, my lifetime has been to always prove a point that I'm strong, that I can do things when other people tell me that I can't. So no, I always feel, you know, tomorrow's going to be a good day. Tomorrow's going to be a great day. Tomorrow is going to be better. So that's always been in my mind when I had problems, you know, that I was sort of close to give up, but not that close because of this mentality that I have. I first got married when I was 17 years old, while I was doing Form 5 or 11. There were actually a lot of South American girls that were getting married at that time, of about my age. So it wasn't anything strange within our community. However, my father expected me to stop school and have children straight away. And I said to him, no way in hell I'm going to have any children now. I will finish my schooling, I'll get a career, and then, and only then, I will think about having children. So there was no support as far as my parents were concerned, but they ended up being very proud of what I became, which is quite interesting. At the time of my tertiary school, the support came from male students and teachers who wanted me to succeed. Some students taught me a lot about electronics because some of them had been doing electronics for many years before that course. Some teachers gave me a break when some of my results went up to scratch, but I would have to prove myself by going through some other tests. There was no moral support structure with any female students or teachers because there were none at the time. And I overcame it because I wanted to finish what I started, and that was the course, and I wanted to have a career in my life. After the 2 years of traineeship, I continued doing subjects to improve my engineering skills. I went to TAFE and I finished my Associate Diploma of Engineering Electronics. I continued attending seminars and workshops. I taught myself all the new applications and software required to do my job better. Some of my colleagues would encourage me to learn something else, something new all the time. So I was very lucky where I worked also, places that, a place that actually my colleagues and bosses, they would always try to encourage me to improve myself in the field. So that was really good. The biggest challenges were when I had a family. I worked full-time most of my career, except when my children were young in the mid-80s. At the time, there was no flexibility to work part-time or share positions. When my children were young, they had to go to childcare, which was very expensive at the time and still is. However, when the oldest started school, it was very difficult to drop him off and pick him up and all those challenges. Anyway, I decided that I needed to work part-time. However, that had never been done in my area where I was working. And all my colleagues said to me, oh, you won't be allowed to do that. And I said, I don't care. I'm going to talk to the chief of division and we'll see what he says. So I had a meeting with the chief of our division and I explained to him my situation and my need to work part-time. And I declared to him that if I wasn't allowed to do this, I would just quit. And the chief said to me, no, we'll just tell me and choose the times and the days that you want to work part-time and we'll let it be. Oh, great. But again, I was breaking the rules and I was sort of have to prove a point again and was a sample of what could come for the future. So I worked part-time for 10 months and it was like working 2 full-time jobs. One that I was getting paid 2/3 of my normal salary And the other one, I wasn't getting paid at all as a mother and doing all the things that you do at home. So after 10 months, I went back to full-time and demanded to my husband to help with everything in raising the children. So that was the biggest challenge, you know, because I wanted to do part-time, and it's quite amazing nowadays that part-time is taken for granted, or sharing a position is taken for granted, when people like me in the early 80s, we did not have that that facility at all. I think the biggest challenges are still our society that expects girls to be pretty, submissive, and intelligent. I encourage every family member and friends to encourage these girls to achieve independence and careers that they will be happy with. And that's all. In conclusion, I would say that a technical officer, for me, it was a very interesting job, because even though I worked for the same company, Department of Defense, for 34 years, it was always challenging, always learning something new, and I loved it. So what I'm saying to you is, no matter what career you choose for your life's journey, you should always aim for 3 things. First, that you find what you are basically good at, that you develop your skills and love what you do. For me, I was good at maths, and I love to analyze a problem and find a solution. And I learned to love electronics. Number 2, that you are basically happy, comfortable, and respect the people that you work with. Life is much easier if you're happy with your work colleagues, especially if you have to work as a team and always keep a good humor. However, you should always stand for your rights to be treated fairly and with respect. And number 3, that you're financially in a good, secure, and safe job position where you can safely choose your career path and financially maintain a safe and reasonable standard of living. I have helped many other women engineers financially. I had long wanted to do something to encourage more women to follow a career in engineering and science. I read about a donor who created a scholarship at RMIT, so I decided to create a scholarship of my own by leaving a bequest in my will to RMIT. I did come from a poor background, and I made a better life thanks to the facilities, education, and people here in Australia. So I want to give back to the community, but particularly to women in science, technology, engineering, and maths. I hope my passion for education lives on. I hope whoever receives the scholarship or prize will then do the same for someone else too.